When we learn grammar, we're essentially learning about what are called the parts of speech. Nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, prepositions. Those are all parts of speech. Probably the most important, though, are verbs. If you can quickly and accurately identify the verb in a sentence, then it's a lot easier to identify the other parts of speech or the other words in a sentence. So verbs are very, very important. And there are two types of verbs. There are action verbs, and then there's another verb called a helping verb. We're going to learn about helping verbs in a later lesson. Today we're going to focus on action verbs. Can you tell me what the two different types of action verbs are? Alright, if you answered physical and mental, you're correct. Physical verbs are things that someone can physically do. And we'll talk about some examples in just a moment. Mental action verbs are verbs that, or actions that people can do with their brains or with their heads. Give me an example of what a physical action verb would be, or choose from the list which one you think is a physical action verb. Alright, correct. If you chose running from the list as an example of a physical action verb, you're correct. And for those of you that have done some running in the past for sports or other activities that you're doing, you know that running is definitely a very physical activity. Right, so that's a physical action verb. That's something that we can physically do. From the list now, right, take a look at it. Which one do you think would be a good example of a mental action verb? Alright, good. If you chose learning from the list, then you're correct. And that's what we're doing right now. We're learning about the different types of action verbs, physical and mental. And as you probably are well aware, that when you're learning something new, right, you're definitely using mental action. Right? It's tiring, it's exhausting, and it's hard work. Right? But ultimately, in the end, learning is the right thing to do. Alright, let's take a look at a sentence. This is a good example of a sentence that has a verb in it, and we'll have a chance here to practice what we've learned so far about action verbs, both mental action verbs and physical action verbs. So what I'd like you to do is, in this first sentence, Sarah is skating very fast, and from the list that'll pop up momentarily, identify what the verb is in this sentence. Alright, correct. If you identified skating as the action verb in this sentence, then you did a nice job on this. What I'd like you to do next, and again from the list that'll appear momentarily, is tell me whether skating is a physical action verb or a mental action verb. All right, if you had selected that skating is, well, it's not we know it's an action verb, and I'm sorry about that. This is a physical action verb, okay? Something that we can physically do, all right? And skating is a lot of fun, by the way. Let's try another sentence. All right, our next sentence reads, Joey is studying for the grammar quiz. All right, and that's a good kid. He'll probably do really well in the grammar quiz. So what I'd like you to do, same as we did before, is first identify what the verb is in this sentence. All right, good. If you chose studying as the verb in this sentence, then you're correct. What I'd like you to do now is identify whether studying is a physical action verb or a mental action verb. All right, good. If you said that studying is a mental action verb, then you're correct. Right? Studying is something that we do with our brains or with our heads, right? And that's how we have to think about mental action verbs. All right, let's try another sentence. All right, our next sentence is Holly is thinking about a book. Right, same as we've done before. Identify what the verb is in this sentence. All right, good. If you identify thinking as the verb in this sentence, then you're correct. Now, try to figure out whether thinking is a physical action verb or a mental action verb. All right, awesome. If you answered that thinking is a mental action verb, then you're correct. Let's look at another sentence. We'll get better and better as we practice more. All right, and if you practice a lot and you skate very fast, chances are your team is going to win a lot of games. So in this sentence, my team won the game. Identify what the verb is in this sentence. All right, good. If you identified won as the verb in this sentence, then you got this one right. Next, try to figure out if one is a physical action verb or a mental action verb. All right, correct is win is a physical action verb. You're not going to win a hockey game or a baseball game or any kind of sport or activity unless you're doing something very physical. So if you answered physical, good job, you got that right. Let's take a look at another one. All right, the Patriots are lucky to have a really good quarterback, and they've had a lot of success since Tom Brady took over, well, I guess about 12 years ago or so. But this is something Tom Brady does once in a while. Tom Brady scored a touchdown. Can you figure out what the verb is in this sentence? All right, good. If you answered scored as the verb in this sentence, then you got this right. Good job. Next, can you figure out whether scored is a physical action verb or a mental action verb? All right, good job. Scored is definitely a physical action verb, right? Something you can physically do. You can physically score a touchdown. All right, one more sentence. All right, last sentence. Many people believe Tom Brady is a great quarterback. See if you can figure out what the verb is in this sentence. All right, good. If you answered believe, then you got this one right as well. Now, try to figure out if believe is a physical action verb or a mental action verb. Can you physically believe? Or when we believe, are we using our heads and our brains? All right, if you answered mental action verb, then you got that one correct as well. Great job. So hopefully, after seeing these examples and going through this practice session, you're beginning to understand that there's a difference between physical action verbs and mental action verbs. Again, a physical action verb is something we can physically do. Okay, we can skate, we can win, and we can score. Okay, those are things we can physically do. Right, and those mental action verbs, things that we need our head and our brains for, like for studying and thinking and believing. Okay, but they're all action verbs. All right, we're going to do some more practice because I just want to make sure that when we're reading sentences and we're trying to find what the action verb is in a sentence, that we're able to do so accurately and consistently. So in this first sentence, Mom and Dad went out for dinner. What is the verb in this sentence? Okay, if you answered went, then you are correct. Right? And that would be a physical action verb, by the way, because you can requires, right, to kind of went or go out for dinner requires that you physically do something. So good job on that. Next sentence, something we should all be doing every day. Miles reads every day. Identify the verb in that sentence. All right, good. If you identified reads as the verb in this sentence, then you got this right. And that would also be a physical action verb. All right, sentence number 3. Reading requires stamina. And that's true. If you're going to read a book, you have to be able to stay with it. Once you get that stamina, you build it up, your reading will, or your enjoyment of reading will increase dramatically. So anyway, let's find out what the verb is in this sentence. Reading requires stamina. Tell me the verb. All right, good. If you identified requires as the verb in the sentence, then you got this one right. And I would say this one is a mental action verb. How about in this sentence? Books bring us to faraway places. What's the verb in this sentence? All right, if you identified bring as the verb here, then you got this one correct. Good job. Alright, from time to time, if it fits in with what we're learning in class or what we're doing in class, and if we have time, and if you guys have been good and we've been productive and getting a lot of stuff done, Mr. Conley will sometimes tell a story. So in this sentence, Mr. Conley sometimes tells a story in class. Sorry, I can't even read my own writing. What's the verb in this sentence? Alright, good. Some of you may have thought that sometimes is the verb, right, but the verb here is tells. Okay? And again, getting back to our two different types of verbs. Right, there's a physical verb, okay, something we can physically do, and then we have those mental action verbs, things that we have to use our heads or brains for. Right, tells would definitely be a physical action verb. Someone's telling a story, right, they're doing something physically. I think we have enough room for two more sentences. And I know from experience that when we do tell stories in class, kids really enjoy them. So in this sentence, let's see if we can figure out what the verb is here. Students enjoy a good story. Alright, good. If you identified enjoy as the verb in this sentence, then you got this one right as well. We'll do one more sentence, and I think we're done with this lesson. Alright, last sentence. This one might be a little bit tough because there are actually two verbs in this sentence. See if you can identify both of them. Active readers visualize while they read. Alright, good. Although active may look like a verb, that's actually an adjective. It's describing readers. And even though readers may look like a verb as well, that's a noun. Okay? So our two verbs here are first visualize and then read. So visualize would be a mental action verb, right? Something that we should be doing while we're reading. We should be visualizing, right? That's a verb. It's describing mental action. And then the other verb in the sentence is read. And this is a physical action verb, right? Because as we learned earlier with number 2, right, reading is something that we physically do. So hopefully you've learned about action verbs and that there are two different types, physical and mental. And when we see sentences going forward, you'll be able to easily and accurately identify the verb in the sentence. Because if you can do that, then figuring out what these other things are in the sentence becomes a lot easier. It's all driven by the verb. So make sure that you understand what the verb is in a sentence. So hope this helps, and we'll see everyone next time.